Ladies and gentlemen, most people don't realize they're addicted to something, and it's not drugs, alcohol, or even social media. It's comfort. That's the real addiction. Level 1 happiness is the most dangerous because it feels like happiness. But it's just a distraction. It's that momentary pleasure you get from hitting next episode, scrolling for hours on TikTok, or devouring a tub of ice cream at midnight. It's the spike in dopamine from getting 100 likes on a selfie or buying something new you didn't even need. It gives you the illusion that things are okay, but they're not. You're just numb. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that feeling good right now means we're happy, that if we're laughing, entertained, or relaxed, we're doing life right. But that's a lie. Real happiness doesn't come from a couch, a screen, or a sugar rush. Those things are hits, and like any drug, the more you get, the more you need. The scary part, these hits keep you in a loop. A comfort loop. You're not in pain, but you're not alive either. You're surviving in a state of shallow contentment, no fire, no drive, no growth. That's the trap of level 1. Look around, the world is built to keep you there. Apps are designed to be addictive. Food is engineered to hijack your brain. Entertainment is endless, and it's all right there in your pocket. You never even have to be alone with your thoughts. And that's exactly how most people live, distracted, numbed out, and pacified by short-term pleasure. The tragedy, they think this is normal, they think this is life, but deep down you know better. You've felt it, that quiet voice that says, this isn't it. That flicker of guilt after wasting another day. That twinge of regret when you realize you're moving but going nowhere. Because level 1 happiness doesn't satisfy the soul. It tickles the senses and then disappears. It's like drinking salt water. When you're thirsty, the more you consume, the worse you feel, but you can't stop. And here's the kicker. Level 1 isn't even evil, it's easy, it's comfortable, it's everywhere. That's what makes it so dangerous, because when something's always available, always convenient, and always feels okay, you never question it. You never stop to ask, is this actually making my life better? The truth is, level 1 happiness is survival mode dressed up in pretty packaging. It gives you enough to cope, but not enough to grow. You stay busy. You stay stimulated, but you never go deep. And over time, you begin to confuse motion for meaning. You start settling for average days, average feelings, average purpose. You think it's fine because nothing's wrong, but the fire inside you, it's going dim. And if you don't wake up, if you don't break that pattern, one day you'll realize you spent years being comfortable, but never fulfilled. You got the promotion. You hit the goal. You crossed the finish line. So why do you still feel empty? This is the paradox of level 2 happiness, the place where achievement feels like it should be enough. But somehow, it still leaves something missing. This is the level where people hustle, grind, and climb their way to the top, believing that success will bring them peace, and for a moment it does. You feel the rush when you win, the pride when you're recognized, the thrill of progress. But then, slowly it fades, the excitement wears off, the applause dies down, and you're left asking, now what? This is the trap. Level 2 happiness is addictive because it's tied to results. It's performance-based. You learn to measure your worth by your wins. It becomes a cycle. Achieve, celebrate, crash, repeat. You start chasing the next thing before you've even enjoyed the one you just earned. The degree wasn't enough, so you get the job. The job wasn't enough, so you chase the title. The title wasn't enough, so you go after the business, the car, the house, the recognition. It's an endless ladder with no top rung, because no achievement can fill a hole that's spiritual, emotional, or purpose-driven. We live in a world that worships productivity. You're told to hustle harder, do more, outperform the competition, and it works externally. You get results, you get validation, you're admired for what you've built. But what most people don't see is what's happening inside. You start feeling like a machine. You're always on, always grinding, always chasing something just out of reach. And the scariest part, you start confusing motion for meaning. You become so focused on doing that you forget to ask why you're doing it in the first place. At level 2, happiness becomes conditional. You only feel good when you win. You only feel proud when you're progressing. If you don't hit the goal, you crash emotionally. If you're not improving, you feel like you're falling behind. Your identity becomes wrapped up in your accomplishments, and your inner peace becomes fragile, always dependent on the next external win. The world celebrates this kind of person, the driven one, the achiever, the overcomer, and that's why this trap is so subtle, because it looks like success. From the outside, it looks like you're living the dream. But if you're honest with yourself, you know something's missing. There's a quiet ache even at the top. A whisper that says, "Is this all there is?" And that question becomes louder with each milestone. Because level 2 can't feed your soul, it can only feed your ego. It's all about building a life that looks good, not necessarily one that feels good. You're performing more than you're living. You're checking boxes, but you're not checking in with your deeper self. You may be climbing the ladder fast, but if it's leaning against the wrong wall, what's the point? There comes a moment, usually in silence. Usually when no one is watching, when you realize that all the noise, all the trophies, all the achievements still haven't filled that deep, quiet space inside you. That's when the shift begins. That's when level 3 happiness starts to call. It doesn't scream like the world does, it whispers. It's not about applause, it's about alignment. And most people never get here, not because they can't, but because they never slow down long enough to hear that whisper. Level 3 happiness isn't built on pleasure or performance. It's built on purpose. It's when you wake up with a reason that pulls you out of bed, not pushes you. It's when your life stops being about what you can get and starts becoming about what you can give. At this level, happiness doesn't come from dopamine spikes or praise, it comes from contribution. It comes from knowing that who you are and what you do actually matters. The world teaches you to chase success. Rarely does it teach you to chase significance, but that's the game changer. When your actions are aligned with your values, when your growth fuels others, when your pain turns into someone else's hope, that's where real joy is born. It's quiet, it's deep, it's sustainable. It doesn't burn out when the spotlight fades, because it's not powered by ego. It's powered by meaning. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Level 3 isn't easy. It requires looking inward. It demands self-awareness. You have to confront your shadows, your motives, your fears. You have to stop asking, "What do I want from the world?" and start asking, "What does the world need from me?" That's a radical shift, and it scares people. Because level 3 forces you to strip away the masks. You're no longer performing, you're becoming. At this level, fulfillment comes not from being the center of attention, but from being of service. You start to realize that true power isn't control, it's impact. True wealth isn't money, it's meaning. You could be making less money, working longer hours, and still feel more alive than you ever did before, because for the first time, you're aligned with your why. That's what fuels level 3. This is where you find people who devote their lives to causes bigger than themselves, mentors, artists, teachers, healers, leaders who serve instead of command. They're not driven by vanity, they're moved by vision. Their reward isn't the outcome, it's the process. It's the doing that becomes the joy. Because every day they know they're making a dent in the universe, not for applause, but because they can't not do it. It's who they are. And when you live from that place, when your growth becomes someone else's breakthrough, when your voice becomes someone else's clarity, when your work becomes someone else's healing, that's when happiness stops being something you chase and starts being something you embody. You know what's easier than chasing purpose, scrolling. You know what's more comfortable than facing your potential, hitting snooze. You know what's safer than stepping into the unknown, staying exactly where you are. That's why most people stay stuck on level 1, not because they're weak, not because they're broken, but because growth demands something that most are unwilling to give: discomfort. And that's the barrier. That's the wall that keeps 90% of the world locked into shallow happiness. People don't avoid growth because they don't want it. They avoid it because it costs too much. It costs comfort, convenience, certainty. And in a world built to sedate you with fast food, fast entertainment, and fast distractions, staying comfortable is the default. It's easier to numb the pain than confront the truth. It's easier to repeat yesterday than build tomorrow. Because building takes effort, and effort exposes insecurity. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I try and it still doesn't work? So instead, people make tiny trades every single day. They trade purpose for pleasure, depth for distraction, long-term fulfillment for short-term ease, and they do it quietly, subtly, over time. It's death by 1,000 tiny choices. It's choosing the easy route just once, and then again, and then it becomes a habit. Before long, the fire goes out, not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, invisibly, a slow leak in the soul. It's not that people don't know there's more. Deep down, everyone knows. They feel the discontent. They sense the potential, but acting on it, that would require leaving the safety of the known. And here's the harsh truth: safety kills dreams. Comfort zones don't just keep you from fear. They also keep you from greatness. You can't discover who you are if you refuse to let go of who you were. But most people cling. They cling to identity, to routine, to anything that feels familiar. And that's why they never move beyond level 1. You'll hear people say, "I just want to be happy." But what they mean is, "I just don't want to be uncomfortable." And that's a dangerous mindset, because anything meaningful, anything real requires discomfort. Growth is uncomfortable, healing is uncomfortable, discipline, vulnerability, truth, all uncomfortable, but they're the ingredients of real transformation. And if you avoid those things, you're not just avoiding pain, you're avoiding power. This is the truth most won't tell you. Happiness isn't free, fulfillment isn't handed to you, it's earned through sweat, courage, honesty, and action, and because most people don't want to pay that price, they settle. They choose comfort now over fulfillment later. They confuse peace with numbness, and they build a life that looks fine on the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. They choose the known pain of stagnation over the unknown stretch of transformation. And they stay stuck, not because they have to, but because it's easier. Comfort is the thief that wears a friendly face. It whispers, "You're fine, you've earned a break. You don't need to change anything." And that's how it wins. And not with force, but with permission. Little by little, it convinces you to slow down, to stop pushing, to stay exactly where you are, even if where you are doesn't light you up. Most people don't even realize they're trading their future for comfort. They think they're just relaxing, just coasting, just being realistic. But what they're really doing is building walls around their potential and calling it safety. You see, comfort is easy. Effort isn't. Comfort is predictable. Growth isn't. Comfort feels good now. Growth feels good later. And that's the trick. Your brain is wired to avoid discomfort. It wants certainty, familiarity, and low energy output. That's biology, but your soul, your purpose, that lives in the unknown, that lives in the stretch. And this is where most people get caught. They think the goal is to feel better, when really the goal is to become better. But becoming better requires friction, and comfort doesn't want friction, it wants stillness. So what happens? People start lowering their standards just a little. They stop chasing excellence and start settling for good enough. They stop asking what's possible and start asking what's easy. They shrink their dreams to match their effort instead of raising their effort to match their dreams. They avoid anything that feels hard, and in doing so, they avoid everything that feels real. Because let's be honest, the most powerful breakthroughs in life don't come from smooth moments. They come from challenge, from tension, from pressure. Diamonds aren't made in comfort, they're made under heat. But comfort is seductive. It gives you just enough to keep you from reaching for more. A decent job, a decent relationship, a decent routine, and decent becomes the prison. Not painful enough to force change, not fulfilling enough to feel alive. Just fine, And that's where dreams go to die in the quiet graveyard of a fine life. Not tragic, not terrible, just comfortable enough to stay the same. Think about it. How many times have you felt a spark to start something, to change something, to become something more, only to talk yourself out of it? Now's not the right time. I'm not ready. I don't know how. These aren't excuses. They're comfort talking, and every time you listen, that fire inside you dims just a little more. Because comfort doesn't just keep you still, it slowly convinces you that you don't even want to move. But deep down, you know better. You've had moments, even just flashes, where you felt alive, where you were challenged, where you pushed yourself, and afterward, even if it was hard, even if it stretched you, you felt proud. You felt clear, because discomfort builds confidence. It sharpens identity. It grows your capacity. But you can't access any of that if you're addicted to ease. Everyone's looking for it. Everyone's chasing it. But hardly anyone is building it. Happiness, the real kind, the kind that stays when the noise fades, doesn't just happen. It's not something you stumble into on a lucky day, or something that arrives when life finally gets perfect. It's a process. A discipline, a decision you make every single day, with or without motivation. That's the part no one wants to talk about, because it's easier to believe that happiness is something you find, like treasure buried somewhere out there, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. But it's not. It's something you create. We live in a culture obsessed with instant gratification. One-click joy, same-day delivery, swipe, right love, and so we start to believe that happiness should arrive just as quickly. We wait for the right job, the right partner, the right weekend, the right weather, the right feeling, and in that waiting we give away our power. We act like happiness is outside of us, as if it's something we earn after checking off a list. But happiness isn't found at the finish line. It's built in the daily grind. It's built in the mornings you show up when it's hard, in the discipline you keep when no one's clapping, in the gratitude you practice when things don't go your way. You don't get happiness by wishing for it, you get it by working on yourself, by working on your mindset, your habits, your focus. It's not glamorous, it's not always fun, but it's real and it's lasting. Because unlike pleasure, which fades fast, happiness that's built sticks around. It holds steady in chaos. It grounds you when things fall apart. It gives you strength when life throws you off course. Because it's rooted in who you've become, not in what you happen to be feeling in the moment. That's the shift most people never make. They keep waiting to feel better before they take action. But the truth is, action creates the feeling. Discipline creates the energy. Intention creates the clarity. Happiness doesn't come from what happens to you, it comes from what you choose to build in response. Every choice is a brick. What you focus on, what you feed your mind, how you treat people, how you treat yourself, that's the architecture of happiness. It's slow, intentional work, and most people don't want slow, they want fast. But fast doesn't last. You've probably had moments where you achieved something, bought something, or won something and felt a high only for it to fade the next day. That's because those are flashes, not foundations. Built happiness doesn't crash. It holds because it's supported by purpose, not applause. It's tied to growth, not ego. It's reinforced by the kind of internal respect that comes from doing the work, even when no one's watching. That's how you build peace. That's how you build joy, not with luck, not with shortcuts, with repetition, with honesty, with alignment, day after day after day.